January 2018 has been a busy month. Though we didn't have much to see during the first 2 weeks or so, the end of the month delivered so many great games that it's hard to keep up. Obviously we've got Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball FighterZ, but just before these two released, two extremely interesting indie games came out, which were unfortunately kinda overshadowed by the big Japanese IPs. Both are platformers. The first is Iconoclasts and the second is Celeste. This video will be dedicated to motivating you to play these games, as I think they clearly deserve the niche reputation they now have. Not only are they well conceived in their game design and artistic direction, they also have something that we rarely see in platformers in general: impactful storytelling. The reason I made this video was to show you that these games are a living proof that platformers and more classic genres are able to offer both a rich and complex story and universe just as much as they can deliver interesting mechanics and tight gameplay. After all, why should we give only one or the other when we could get both? We often see those debates about video games in general, as in should we focus more on a story or should we focus more on a fun game. But the truth is, as much as I can enjoy one or the other in standalone entries, my favorite approach is to mix the two together to deliver the ultimate playful and memorable experience. First, let's talk about Iconoclasts. Iconoclasts is a Metroidvania where you play as Robin, a mechanic, not me, her. Unfortunately, in this world, her work is criminalized, according to the law of Mother, who is a sort of goddess for the people of the West. Robin will have to deal with Mother's religious fanatic group and escape from trouble in her own way. As you can guess from that description, the game is surprisingly story-heavy. You'll have to go through a lot of dialogues and scenes, with very detailed animations and character acting for a game of such a modest scale. There are elements of science fiction, but also religion and even politics. The world is divided between East and West, with the East being more carefree and independent, while the West is heavily influenced by religion and military power. Those themes really makes me think of Xenogears, so if you like either Iconoclasts or Xenogears, you'll probably love the other one. By far the biggest strength of the storytelling is the way the characters are depicted and how the dialogues play out. The villains are extremely charismatic. They may be evil, but they are extremely intimidating and have their own motives and reasons. They're kinda fucked up at times, and that's also what I loved about the screenplay. Sometimes they're completely unpredictable, dark and ready to kill, and that really gives you a reason to want to punch them in the guts. On the contrary, your friends and allies are really colorful and ready to help you out if you need it. However, there is some conflict between them, considering they're all issued from different cultures and beliefs. This is by far what really makes them seem so human, and it's one of Iconoclast's best story assets. Some events are dark, even downright grim and disturbing, and I love this freaky shit. In its presentation, Iconoclast is a pixel art game on widescreen with vibrant and beautiful colors with extremely detailed special effects and environments. It's actually really reminiscent of the Game Boy Advance era, not only in its visuals but also in how the game feels and controls. Like a good mix of some Metroid Zero Mission, Wario Land 4, and Mother 3 for its colors and story pacing. Kinda like Owlboy. It shares a lot of elements with this game, considering both Iconoclast and Owlboy were in development for more than 7 years. The game in itself plays like a classic Metroidvania, but this time with more emphasis on puzzle solving to discover and explore new screens. You can jump, shoot, dive down and use one of your most important items, your wrench. You can use it to activate mechanisms, but also attack enemies, counter projectiles, spin it and gain a new charging function later in the game. All of these are used for the sake of progressing through the story and to also make up for really interesting combat situations and bosses. Weapon feedback is tight, and there is also an auto-aim function when you're close to enemies. It's not a bad thing, but I wish the game would allow you to shoot diagonally or aim manually by the press of a shoulder button or something instead. Swinging around with the wrench is fun. The jumps are kinda stiff, but at least they're precise, and the puzzles are all really accessible but still require you to use your head a little. Level design is clear, and I've never had any issues with my progression aside from the tower level, which I really hated. The game is fairly well written other than that, and you jump from zone to zone really fast, while the plot keeps gaining in intensity with a lot of different sections of gameplay. Be it fighting a helicopter on top of a moving train, going through deserts, diving down in an underwater base, finding a kick-ass boss and going through an escape scene. But one of the best gameplay segments I came across were the bosses. They're innovative and go further from most Metroidvania bosses, as in you don't have to aim for just one weak spot and call it a day. You have to sometimes switch characters, understand boss patterns and use them to your advantage, and they're extremely satisfying to beat. They're action-packed, but they're also puzzles themselves in some way. There are a lot of other surprises coming for you, and this game simply gets better and better the more you play it. You never have time to be bored, and the gameplay constantly seems to change over time. The sound design is very well implemented in the game too. I just love those little boops when you walk. The music is kinda lovely and fits the atmosphere pretty well too. While I don't think Iconoclasts is the most groundbreaking game by playing, you understand the overwhelming amount of hard work and love that was put into this game. The beginning is kinda great, then it kinda gets a bit annoying and dull for a while before completely fucking you over with everything getting crazier and crazier. Some sections in the endgame gave me goosebumps and brought me to tears. Iconoclasts needs to be played from beginning to end. Celeste could simply be compared to a die-and-retry platformer like Super Meat Boy, but it ended up being far more than that. Celeste follows the tale of Madeline, a teenager attempting to climb a mountain. She meets other characters like Theo, the grandma, and her dark twisted self as she climbs. The controls are extremely simple and accessible. A stick to move, a button to jump, another one to dash, and another one to climb and cling to walls. By using those three options, you will have to go through separated segments of the same big chapter. Every screen is both a challenge for your skills and how you control Madeline, but it's really a good idea to dive headfirst like you could in Super Meat Boy, for example. You've gotta analyze the structure of the screen, different mechanics and paths available for you to follow. And only once you've thought about that, you go and do your thing. There's a lot of new elements introduced in every new level, and they're all really interesting and make use of the game's unique climbing system to make it different from what you usually see in die-and-retry platformers. Some even require you to use your momentum speed in time to gain some extra height, and I love this kind of thing, and I wish more modern platformers made use of such a system. The level design is trimmed and progressive throughout chapters. Every new screen gains in intensity as much as the story. For the most part, the first 2 or 3 minutes of every chapter are here to introduce the new mechanics, items and unique features of the level. Then every new screen gets more complex, and so does the music and the environment. You very often find collectible rooms where you need to pick up strawberries, and some puzzle rooms like a mix of strategy and skills, which definitely feels satisfying once you finally get the special items. Then the game starts mixing up the old mechanics with the new ones, never giving up its older elements, unlike a lot of other platformers. And then usually the chapter ends with a boss or a run-for-it sequence where you just rush and blast full speed ahead. The music is even more intense, and you make use of every skill in your possession to reach the end with a satisfying sense of accomplishment and mastery. Because of that, the pacing of the game never feels too slow or too fast. It's interesting and intense enough to keep you interested, but it's always making sure of never overwhelming you with too much stuff going on at the same time. And for that reason, the game didn't appear intimidating in any aspect. There's even an assist mode if it's still too hard or demanding for you, but I've never tried it. But not only does Celeste deliver in its tight gameplay, the storytelling and game ambience is just as amazing and subtle. The story is told throughout very cute, endearing and lovable dialogues between the few characters after passing through certain parts of the level. Special shout out to the team for putting in custom text boxes for every different characters and adding the most adorable dialogue entry noises I've ever heard before. Atmospherically speaking, Celeste is truly something else. Truth is, I did not expect to be this touched by a simple, minimalistic-looking 6-hour-long platformer. The game isn't even too text-heavy, but within its own little and short dialogues, every character appears endearing. It's all thanks to the quality of the screenwriting, the cute visuals, and the melancholic and tranquil piano soundtrack. But below all of this cute stuff lies the sub-theme of anxiety and depression, which Madeline suffers from. And as someone who suffers from both, I feel this game knows how to treat this subject as it should be treated. Madeline is never seen as someone weak-minded, antisocial, or anything by the other characters. It's just something Madeline has to deal with and fight against. It is never used as a plot device, it's a part of her, and that's what I love about it. There's a sense of sincerity and intimacy between all of these dialogue lines, the soundtrack and the screenplay. All of this is shown throughout the chapters, but more specifically at the beginning and end of every chapters, to help the pacing keep calm for a moment before you go back to the tight platforming sections, which has a haunting and mysterious atmosphere. Everything else, you'll have to figure out by yourself. Celeste is an amazing game, and if you enjoy well-conceived gameplay or well-crafted storytelling, you will feel content either way. The game was one of the biggest surprises I've played for a while now, as it just came out of the blue when I decided to try it out of curiosity. And now it's already a contender for one of the most remarkable games I've played this year. Thanks for having watched this. I sincerely hope that you got interested in trying out those two ambitious and really interesting games. That was a pretty random and surprise video, which is why it's kinda short in comparison to what I usually do. If you enjoy my content, you can help by supporting me on Patreon. For a monthly $1, you can get exclusive content like videos in advance, get credited at the end of my videos, and get other exclusive updates and articles. With that, thank you again and I'll see you around.